Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, today with Collectible Card Game Design discussion, where we talk about collectible card games and their designs and all that. Just what's on my mind lately about all that stuff. So, this is probably a weird way to start, but I like to think about getting into the character of who you are in the card game, when playing. Like in Magic, you're a planeswalker, or in L5R, Legend of the Five Rings, you're daimyo for one of the clans. So what are you trying to do, and how will you succeed? If you're a planeswalker in Magic, you're trying to defeat your opponent by reducing their life to zero, or running out their library, or achieving some esoteric victory condition through a special card that gives you another way to win. And you'll be just playing cards in order to do it. With L5R, you're trying to either conquer your opponent's provinces, reach an honor victory, or play the five rings. And to that end, you'll have your characters and their followers and equipment. You'll have your holdings and spells and actions, all sorts of stuff. And where is it? With Magic, it's on a plane, one of the various planes somewhere. I kind of miss the plane chase set. It's kind of a fun way to actually add actual locations to the game. L5R is set in Rokugan, and that has, this backstory and mythology and all sorts of other stuff to discover as you play the game. But let's get into the actual technical aspects. So, we're gonna figure out what is the goal of the game. Maybe by getting into the character, we can kind of expedite the process a little bit, thinking about the rest of this here. So, like I said, with Magic, there's reduce your opponent to zero life, or make them draw a card when their library is empty in order for you to win. L5R, if you eliminate your opponent's last province, if you reach 40 honor, if you make your opponent hit negative 20 honor, or if you play the five rings, you can win the game. So there's got to be something to reach for, for the game to actually reach a conclusion. So you're gonna have to figure out the the rules of the game, potential you know, some exceptions might come up, and you're gonna have to handle those as well. But to that end, you'll need cards and types of cards and how those work. They might have costs to play. You might be able to just play them for free, but you're limited to playing certain cards, maybe once a turn. Magic has its mana system. L5R has gold. But yeah, the rules should lead to the goal. The cards should be playable with the rules to lead to the goal. Um, Remember, one of the recurring things with card games in general is they they tend to set up rules and then cards find creative ways to break them. Something to keep in mind. And also building decks. Like Magic has its 60 card minimum. L5R has two separate decks of Fate and Dynasty, 40 cards each. There might be certain archetypes as well, um, for play style and overall aggression or defensiveness, simplicity or complexity that might get figured in as well. Players will figure those out over time. It's kind of hard to engineer those things because players are pretty clever. But these are all probably going to be figured out together. It's kind of a cohesive system. It's kind of hard to just do one thing at a time. It's it all kind of it all has to be built interlinked in that way, which is one of the tricky things about the making a card game. So we need to get to the visual side of things. How are your cards going to look? So like having a picture and cost and text, um, motifs and styles that make up a faction. Like if you play Magic, you'll notice, you know, white cards are a certain way, blue cards are a certain way, black's a certain way, red's a certain way, green's a certain way. There'll be these recurring elements of this is the big creature that smashes things faction, or this is the tricky, sneaky faction that does crazy spells that are hard to deal with, but are very esoteric to pull off. Also figuring out like text and backstory for like flavor, but also for the rules as well. Like there'll be like with Magic, it's got the upper text, the box will be this is what the creature or spell does, and at the bottom will be kind of a flavor of you that kind of sets a scene of what that card's about, or it's funny or whatever. You know, it should be fairly understandable to read the cards and know what they're going to do. Notice certain colors on certain backgrounds do not work very well. Red on black is like the worst thing you can probably do. Uh, yeah, just clear text, a fitting picture, organized card frame to set the visual. No, games don't come out of nowhere. It's going to take actually developing not just the core rules, but also every given set for the game. You'll have your initial set. You'll make expansions that expand out on other abilities. There's and new worlds to explore, or the storyline continuing. You will be play testing the ever living crap out of that game because if you fail to play test that game is in deep trouble. Commissioning art. Card games are very visual, and without good art to go with it, it's gonna be hard to convince people to pick it up unless the game is that good. But you really want decent art. Unless your style of game is supposed to be like Kingdom of Loathing-esque. Making a Kingdom of Loathing card game, it's gonna be very simple art. And that would fit with that style. Actually making cards requires printing facilities. You know, this is the one technical aspect I actually don't know much about is where do card game companies print their cards? It's worth looking into. But once you've got the cards, you got the game, you want to promote it. Having demos, like little demo starter decks for people to learn the game. It's one of the things I miss about Dot Hack Enemy. Um, one of the guys demonstrating the game, um, from that company, they provided learning decks, and you knew they were learning decks because the corners were sharp instead of rounded like cards usually are. But that's a way to help people learn the game and get excited for it and want to buy into it. You want to promote the game to get people to buy into it. If people are buying into your game, you can keep it going. and like further expand it out. But for the actual game itself, you're going to need starters and boosters. The starter can be like for a single player to have their own deck to play with, or you might have a two-player starter idea. Eve the Second Genesis has both the Great War and the Day of Darkness starters, which allow two players to play these slightly smaller than usual decks against each other and learn the game. And that's pretty cool. Boosters, we want to figure out card rarities and how many cards are going to be in a booster. How many um you're gonna think about with regard to deck building, like how many copies, and that might affect what you go with for like a card set. If the card max is for a deck is like three, a wider set would probably be for the better. Like four copies, maybe a smaller set would work. I don't know. It's just an idea. But the big thing is tournaments. Tournaments are the big thing to celebrate the people who've really put in the time and effort to learn the game and get good at it and demonstrate their skills with it. And having an event get actual presence might bring more people to try out the game and more people buying in, which means the game can keep going. Yeah. So what else? Just if you're interested in making a card game, play more card games or just play more games in general. Get an understanding for rules, get an understanding for how things work, and get a feel for what things don't work. Even even the best card games have little nitpicks you might be able to pick up on and realize there might be a way to avoid this. Just think about it. Um, there's lots of advice online. Please look up the advice online. TV Tropes has a page, so you want to make a collectible card game. There's plenty of articles online from um, people who've been doing this. I know Wizards moved their site around, so I don't know if Mark Rosewater's stuff is still up there. You can look for where that's archived. There's also a YouTube video on GDC featuring Mark Rosewater talking about 20 years of Magic, 20 lessons learned. And that one's pretty good. I was worth listening to. Um, Me personally, if I could, I want to hear the one person I most want to hear from is Mike Elliott. He worked on Hecatomb, Duel Masters, Dragonborn, just a ton of games. I'm very, very curious to hear his views on game design and such. Yeah. Start with cheap test mode. Here's what you do. You buy sheets of blank cardstock. It's not too terribly expensive. But you take a ruler and a pencil and you make cards the size you're willing to play test with and have card sleeves for. You put those cards into card sleeves. You then get sheets of paper and cut them to the same size as your cardstock. And write on the little sheets, you know, what these prototype cards are going to be, and then test the game out that way, and just start messing with ideas and seeing what you like, what you want to change, what's just not going to work at all. Just keep testing till you're satisfied. Start with rules, then break them creatively. Again, going back to the golden rule of most card Golden rule card games, if the card breaks the rules of the game, the card wins. Yeah. If you're limited to playing one land per turn, you can play a card that lets you play another land, then you're going to be able to play that other land. Other stuff. Um, and beware the cautionary tales. One of the games that, as much as I love it, it is a cautionary tale in terms of production, is Hecatomb. Because the cards are made of plastic, it is entirely possible to open a booster. You saw me open boosters if you watched the video. And I had cards that were, I had the occasional card that was broken on a tip. Thankfully, it happened very few times, but it still was a pain in the ass. There are other games that went horribly wrong. Have fun looking for them. Um, yeah, a lot of games just fail. It, there are very few games that have lasted as long as Magic has. There are games that have tried. L5 Bar tried, and I still love that game, even even though it's not around the way it was anymore. Games that rely on other intellectual properties. This is going to be it is a risk that can pay off, but know that you're going to run out of material eventually. And when that happens, that's pretty much the end of the game. It happened with Dot Hack Enemy. It got to a point where they printed cards of this is actually two monsters. It's the Goilmenher squad. It happened with Lord of the Rings. They actually had to cut back the last couple sets and just go straight to the final promo thing. Yeah, just gimmicky things as well. Just be careful. Um, Requiring extra components is another risk. Dragonborn with its dice, as much as I think it's cool, it's also kind of it would be hard to do a booster draft unless you like actually gave everyone sets of dice and cards representing banners to be prepared for it. Um, Try not to rely on like coin flipping, dice rolling, external components by too much. Yeah, just do your research on the ones that did not work. You know, at the end of the day, I even if I don't play a lot of anything recent, I still like the concept of collectible card games. Still have fond memories of Shadowverse, and I still have a lot of respect for Gwent. The two of the games that I follow that are digital only, but I really like the physical cards a lot more. But I just really want to see, you know, I'm just curious to see other ideas out there. Although I should have given Flesh and Blood a little bit more chance, I think. But it's just I just started thinking about this and was just like, you know, I want to talk about this. I don't know if I have enough to say, but I want to talk about it because I think collectible card games are an interesting concept that deserve a lot more thought, a lot more concern and creativity. And I'm curious to see what the next few years will be like for card games. So hopefully something interesting. All right. I'm curious to hear your thoughts below. Um, yeah, thanks for listening. This has been Pillar Nexus, and I'll see you next time.